In this part we will consider developed and developing worlds. To the developed world, controlled by the demonic elite, belong such countries or regions as North America, West Europe, Australia and Japan, as well as Israel with 6 Gulf monarchies and, finally, the 4 Asian tigers. Developing countries relate to a zombie stage. They can be divided into a newly industrialized countries and developing ones. Developing countries include all the rest regions, such as developing Asian countries, Latin America except already mentioned newly industrialized Mexico and Brazil, Middle East, without State of Israel 6 Gulf monarchies and Turkey, East Europe with Russia and, lastly, Africa without newly industrialized South Africa. The elite of industrialized countries do not know, lack of knowledge, how to fairly resolve problems with their great population. That is why they now actively cooperate with the elite of demonic countries and, most likely, that in 2050 they will join the developed world. Some part of the elite of developing countries such as current Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, Mikhail Saakashvili, governor of Ukraine's Odessa Oblast and the third president of Georgia, Arseniy Yatsenyuk, former prime minister of Ukraine, Igor Kolomoisky, chairman of FC Dnipro-Dnipropetrovsk, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, Russian businessman, a well-known chess grandmaster Garry Kasparov, Elvira Nabiullina, head of the Central Bank of Russia, and the CEO of Sberbank of Russia Herman Gref, due to the lack of knowledge and moral principles are also eager to join the developed world.
Herman Gref, the CEO of Sberbank of Russia. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you that you are actually saying terrible things. I am getting scared from the things that you're telling. Why? You propose to transfer power, the power actually into the hands of the population. But you know, this was a key issue in the public debate during many millennia. And we know how many wise heads thought on this subject. This is how Buddhism was born. A great heir of one of the richest families in India went to the people, and was horrified how bad people were living. He was trying to help people. He tried to find an answer: what is the root of unhappiness? How to make people happier? He did not find the answer, and as a result Buddhism was born as a key ideology, based on the rejection of desire. He couldn't find a way of implementing these desires. People want to be happy, they want to realize their ambitions. To realize all desires does not exist. A production method, the economic method of production which Marx dreamed of, has not realized yet, and therefore we need to work. And it is not a fact that everyone will get a job. And it is not a fact that everyone will receive a desirable salary. And it is not a fact that you will be satisfied. And, at the same time, if every person will be able to participate in management, how do we manage then? A great minister of justice in China, Confucius, started out as a great democrat and finished as the man who invented the whole theory, Confucianism, that created strata in society, strata. And such great thinker as Lao Tzu came up with his theory of Dao, encrypted it. He was afraid to bring it to the common people. Because they knew, as soon as all people understand the basis of their selves, and self-identify, to manage, to manipulate them would be extremely difficult. People do not want to be manipulated when they have knowledge. In the Hebrew culture, Kabbalah, which gave the science of life, it was 3,000 years as a secret teaching, because people understood what will happen if we open eyes to the millions of people and make them self-sufficient. How to manage them? Any mass management implies the element of manipulation. How to live, how to manage, parasitize on this society where all people have equal access to information, where all people have an opportunity to judge directly without fabricated, without fabricated information prepared by trained governments, analysts, political scientists, and huge machines that launched on the heads of people to brainwash them. The media, which seems to be independent, but in fact we understand that the main function of all media is to preserve strata. So, how is it possible to live, he means parasitize in this society? And, to be honest, I feel scary from your arguments, and, I think, you do not understand what you're saying. Vera Svetlanovna, please tell something, maybe you will support me. Nabi Yulina, the head of the Central Bank of the Russian Federation, not sure, I don't think. The upshot was that even Mr. Kudrin seems like a weak voice of reason. He says, guys, well, you see, we still need to develop the technology, we still need to teach someone. See, it is the highest level of Jesuitism, the highest level of cynicism, when a man who is the gravedigger of Russia in my opinion, and the gravedigger of education, the gravedigger of science, who is the initiator of the policy of financial strangulation of our country, and the creation of artificial money hungry. He says, guys, give me some money for development, you know, now even a donkey understands what is happening. Well, at least 1% of GDP. Can we have a budget deficit? It will have no effect. And the price cut off will be not $40, but $45. And his fellow tribesmen from the liberal clan only did not kill him with stones. No, never, under no circumstances, we have to kill our country. Well, this is what it means by describing the situation in plain language. It is legitimately forbidden to start any kind of development in Russia.
However, some people with high moral principles, like the current president of Russia Vladimir Putin, and president of Syria Bashar al-Assad, do not share the view of parasitism on others with further setting of a global microchip slavery. All these people fight against the demon-based type system, because these generalist leaders believe that all humans should have equal opportunities. Among them also were Fidel Castro, Muammar Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Slobodan Milosevic, Ruhollah Khomeini, Che Guevara, John F. Kennedy, Joseph Stalin, Henry Ford, Nicholas II of Russia, William McKinley and Abraham Lincoln. As you can see, all these political leaders, truth fighters of their time, were killed or suddenly died under mysterious circumstances. Further, I would like to describe the current situation in Russia. As you can see, the elite of developed countries manages the Russian central bank, as well as all other central banks in the world.
Katasinov, a Russian scientist and economist, a doctor of economic sciences, professor of Department of International Finance at MGIMO. Nabi Yulina, a head of the Central Bank of the Russian Federation, is playing a character here, namely, of a girl who works at the currency exchanger. When I am asked to explain what is the Central Bank of Russia, I say, the Central Bank of Russia is a currency exchanger in relation to Russia. There sits a girl named Elvira. She works precisely according to the instructions. If she would break, is she an operator? If we continue, yes, she is the operator working by the rules. She doesn't even understand that there are some alternative models. Well, at least, if you pray for America, well, look, they have another model of monetary emission. They issue money for the purchase of debt obligations of the treasury. This model also presents today in Europe and in Japan, but we have a colonial model, and it is not discussed anywhere. It is not discussed even in the State Duma, the lower house of the Federal Assembly of Russia. It was discussed in the early 2000s, when, by the way, President Putin came at first time of his presidency. I clearly remember that there were attempts to change something with the Central Bank of Russia. I remember that at that time the People's Deputies worked on amendments to the federal law on the Central Bank of the Russian Federation, and even tried somehow to change the model of the money issue. Nothing had happened. And then, by the way, came the idea to somehow compensate the setback, making to Vnesheikonom Bank a status of a bank of development, the State Corporation Bank for Development, to, at least, have some tool to manage the economy. Well, we also familiar with what was the end, or rather continues the story of Vnesheikonom Bank. And there is no end there, but it was a palliative, it was a half measure, because, of course, we need a central bank, not a bank of development.
Let me remind you, that after the end of the Bretton Woods system in 1971, all local currencies in the world started, as if voluntarily, float against the US dollar. What does it mean? By keeping in mind, that the elite of developed world can print any amount of US dollars they want, it means that from 1971 via floating exchange rate a small group of bankers can manage any local currency in the world. After the collapse of the USSR in 1991, the elite of developed countries has obtained control over Russian ruble as well. For instance, recently, In December 2014, they have devaluated Russian currency almost in 3 times.
Next, one of our listeners is asking all the time whether the FRS is punishing our central bank for certain actions. By what conditions, by what instruments is it adjustable? Atheist, frankly, according to my opinion, it is simply a fairy tale. No, it is regulated by the Bretton Woods system.
Mikhail Hazen, a Russian economist and the former official of the presidential administration of the Russian Federation. We signed the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund, and we do act according to this articles. And Navi Yulina, the head of the Central Bank of the Russian Federation, when she arranged the devaluation of our national currency in 2014, she legally followed the posted instructions of the IMF for developing countries to devalue a national currency.
The instructions, but not binding laws. Well, you see, it makes me laugh every time when I hear the word nationalization. If you replace Navi Yulina by Glaziev, you do not need any nationalization. So, you know, one thing is to analyze the policy of the Central Bank of the Russian Federation. Well, that's absolutely right. I apologize. I have to remind you that we have the same policy regarding privatization in 1990s. It affected not only enterprises, but state functions as well. Well, of course, this is it. Here we have, correspondingly, Navi Yulina considers her function as a commodity. She personally swore to the Washington Consensus, and she considers her policy only according to the framework of this Washington Consensus. She has organized a devaluation in 2014. What was the goal of it? The main purpose was to maintain a dollar's global financial system by Russian liquidity. After that, when Obama stopped the emission in 2014, as a result, we lost $200 billion, and Elvira on her chest received a medal. In pure form, there is nothing personal, just a business. China, by the way, lost about $1 trillion. My friends, I just want to say that there are, a little weird on head, such Fedorov's fellows, those from the National Liberation Movement that run with the idea of nationalization of central bank. When it was necessary, Yeltsin put Gerashenko, and Gerashenko spit on all these instructions. Yes, you are right, and Zhenya Fedorov, you know, with foam at the mouth defended Chubai privatization in 1990s. Well, that's understandable, it's understandable. I don't think, well,
Yes, Konstantin Babkin, a Russian businessman and politician, president of the Federal Council of Political Party, Party of Action, and president of JSC New Commonwealth and the Association Rozat Romish.
I don't think that someone really finds or somehow punishes Navi Yulina out there, but the fact that she honestly serves to this consensus, I'm pretty sure in that. And all these Kudryans, Shubazovs are apologete, they are servants of international corporations, they do everything good only for these global corporations. Well, first and foremost for American, but not just American, it's a global elite, that, in principle, do not care already about America as well. They are transnational, as it is seen from a Trump's example, he fights with them just from the point of view of national interests of the United States. Absolutely. This is not American anymore, but a global agglomeration of people who imagine themselves as the world's elite and who destroys countries and brings harm to Russia. And, indeed, they oppose to Trump, who wants to industrialize America. They do not need it. And I am, personally, afraid of these people. I'm afraid that they will not stop before the organization of the Third World War. They have nothing to lose. No, they will ensure a personal safety, and in some point, well, they will be able to take this step. Why not? Konstantin Anatolievich, to sit in shelters for many years, and a nuclear war will be accompanied by very high radiation, radioactive contamination, even in the event of an explosion of thousands of warheads, or even, excuse me, of explosion of a couple thousands of missiles, the effect will be very strong. Well, they may figure out to sit for a year in these shelters, and then will come out. Well, a year is not enough. It is not enough. They will live on the planet among deers with clean air. Well, I don't know what do they imagine afterwards. Konstantin Anatolievich, I still would dare to challenge them and change the elite and the government and the leadership of the central bank, and, after all, a new management team.
Despite these shenanigans with Russian local currency by the elite of developed world, our president, Vladimir Putin, still somehow contrives to play with bad cards and defends Russian interests in the world without control over domestic currency. Keep in mind that, unfortunately, all current Ukraine leaders are under the management of the elite of the developed world. So, in case, if Russian people support the scream of liberals about beautiful life in developed countries and get rid of our president, then, most likely, Russia will be separated into tiny parts, or, simply, Russian people will be peacefully killed, sterilized, by widespread vaccines and or GMO food from the developed world. Those who survive will join the lowest stratum as a workforce, including all liberals and current elite as well, and will be downgraded to the animal level, where they can never reach a human phase. As John D. Rockefeller once said, I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. Dear friend, I can feel that you, still, do not believe into this information. Remember, being skeptical is a normal human reaction. But the truth is our reality is even worse than I am describing, when you either build your career on lowest levels of a rat marathon as a demon, struggle in survival, and looking for a new leader for an inspiration as a zombie, or wallow in consumerism and pleasure, that is act like an animal. Demons on top of the pyramid do not conceal their aims anymore, and publicly share about their actions.
Hello. My name is Montague William III, and what I will tell you may well sound absurd, but the less who believe it, the better for me. For you see, I'm in banking and a big industry. For many a year we have controlled your lives, while you all just struggle and suffer in strife. We created the things that you don't really need, your sports cars and fashions and plasma TVs. I remember it clearly how all this begun. Family secrets from father to son, inherited knowledge that gives me the edge, while you people lie sleeping at night in your beds. We control the money that controls your lives, whilst you worship false idols and wouldn't think twice about selling your souls for a place in the sun. These things that won't matter when your time is done. But as long as they're there to control the masses, I just sit back and consider my assets, safe in the knowledge that I have it all, while you common people are losing your jobs. You see, I just hold you in utter contempt. But the smile on my face, well, it makes me exempt. For I have the weapon of global TV, which gives us connection and invites empathy. You would really believe that we look out for you, while we bankers and brokers are only a few. But if you saw that, you'd take back the power. Hence, daily terrors to make you all cower. The panics, the crashes, the wars, and the illness that keep you from finding your spiritual wholeness. We rig the game, and we buy out both sides to keep you enslaved in your pitiful lives. So, go out and work as your body clock fades. And when it's all over, a few years from the grave, you'll look back on all this, and just then you'll see that your life was nothing, a mere fantasy. There are very few things that we don't now control. To have lawyers and police force was always a goal, doing our bidding while you march on the street. But they never realize that they're only just sheep. For real power resides in the hands of a few. You voted for parties. What more could you do? But what you don't know is they're one and the same. Old Gordon has passed good old David the reins, and you'll follow the leader who was put there by you. But your blood, it runs red, while our blood runs blue. But you simply don't see it's all part of the game. Another distraction, like money and fame. Get ready for wars in the name of the free, vaccinations for illness that will never be, the assault on your children's impressionable minds, and a microchipped world. You'll put up no fight. Information suppression will keep you in tone. Depopulation of peasants, was always our goal. But eugenics was not what we hoped it would be. Oh yes, it was us that funded Nazis. But as long as we own all the media too, what's really happening does not concern you. So just go on watching your plasma TV, and the world will be run by the ones you can't see.
Thomas Jefferson, the third U.S. president, understandingly said at his time, "Banking establishments are more dangerous than standing armies." The greatest danger to American freedom is a government that ignores the Constitution. Honesty is the first chapter in the Book of Wisdom. The God who gave us life, gave us liberty at the same time. In every country and every age, the priest had been hostile to liberty. The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time, with the blood of patriots and tyrants. So, the appearance of the Internet, which caused the spreading of information around the world with lightning speed, also brought a trouble for the demonic elite of developed countries. They got worried because they used to live according to the parasite system over centuries. As a result, they decided to build a microchipped world, where everyone will be easily controllable by the masters. So, people literally will become a flock of sheep. The paradox of the situation is that now, the most technologically educated and intelligent kids, all over the world, so concerned about their career, are actually losing the main idea of their embodiment on the earth, and build a digitalized concentration camp for themselves and all future generations. Further, I will show you the abstract from the last interview of Aaron Russo in 2007.
The ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one-world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one-world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is giving me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what
everything,
you sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one-world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people. And you become a slave. You become a serf to these people. That's their goal. That's their intentions.
Eric, can you be specific about when you met Rockefeller, how it happened in these discussions?
I met Rockefeller through a female attorney I knew who called me up one day and said, one of the Rockefellers would like to meet you. I had made a video called Mad as Hell, and he'd seen the video and wanted to meet me and knew I was running for governor of Nevada. So sure, I'd love to meet him. And I met him and I liked him, and he was a very, very smart man. And we used to talk and share ideas and thoughts. And he's the one who told me 11 months before 9/11 ever happened that there was going to be an event. Never told him what the event was going to be, but there was going to be an event, and out of that event, we were going to invade Afghanistan to run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We were going to invade Iraq, to take over the oil fields, establish a base in the Middle East, and make it all part of the New World Order. And we'd go after Chavez in Venezuela. And sure enough, later 9/11 happened, and I remember he was telling me how how you're going to see soldiers looking in caves for people in Afghanistan and Pakistan and all these places, and there's going to be this war on terror, which is no real enemy, and the whole thing is a giant hoax, but it's a way for the government to take over the American people.
He told you it was going to be a hoax.
Oh yeah, there's no question. He says there's going to be war on terror, and he's just laughing. There's no who are we fighting? I mean, why do you think 9/11 happened, and then nothing's happened since then? Do you think that our security is so great here that these people who pulled off 9/11, who were able to, can't knock down another plane? Come on, it's ridiculous. 9/11 was done by people in our own government and our own banking system to perpetuate the fear of the American people into subordinating themselves to anything the government wants them to do. That's what it's about, and to create this war, this endless war on terror. And that's why and that was the first lie. And the next lie was going into Iraq, to get Saddam Hussein out with his weapons of mass destruction. That was the next lie.
Now, specifically, this was a little over 6 years ago.
This was
11 months before 9/11.
Yeah.
And Nick Rockefeller, who's a lawyer, he's become your friend over the previous years, and he's saying to you that there's going to be this big event, and then out of that we're going to have a war on terror, and it's just going to go on and on.
Right, an endless war on terror without any real enemy. That you can never define a winner.
And did he say that it's going to be perfect because you can't define an enemy? It just goes on
Yeah,
and on?
because you can't define a winner. There's no one to beat, so it goes on and on forever. And they can do whatever they want. They scared the hell out of the American public. Look, this whole war on terror is a fraud. It's a farce. It's very difficult to say it out loud because people are intimidated against saying it. Because if you say it, they want to make you into a nutcase. But the truth has to come out. That's why I'm doing this interview. The fact of the matter happens to be that the whole war on terror is a fraud. It's a farce. Yeah, there's a war going on in Iraq because we invaded Iraq. And people over there fighting, But the war on terror, that's a joke, And until we discover what really happened on 9/11 and who was responsible for 9/11, because that's where the war on terror emanates from. That's where it comes from. It was 9/11 that allowed this war on terror to begin. And until we get to the bottom root of 9/11, the truth of 9/11, we'll never know about the war on terror.
Aaron, you said that he was, and I think it's important, and I know this about the Rockefellers from Dr. Dennis Cuddy and many others who literally, you'll be 20 years old in a lunch line at college, and there's David Rockefeller, and here's your, they're experts at recruiting and getting what they call players, and that clearly he was, I want to make it specific and just get you to reiterate what you said last night about you got 30% of the vote, you were having an effect, you made mad as hell, they knew that you'd started the Constitution Party, They knew that you were somebody who was taking action and getting things done, you'd already made some big films, had a lot of other successes,
right.
So they were trying to recruit you, and didn't it come down to the point of, hey, we are here to recruit you, and don't worry, your chip's going to say, don't mess with us, this guy's don't touch.
Yeah, yes, that did happen. I was definitely being recruited. But it's more subtle than that.
Well, in your words, just go through the process, and then what he said to you.
Well, what it is remember we were friends, and he used to come to my house a lot. We'd have dinner, we'd talk, and he'd tell me about business investments that he'd get involved in, or they would help me with this business investment or that business investment. And was I interested in joining the Council on Foreign Relations? I would have to get a letter to join them, but was I interested in that? And just stuff, leading you on. And I used to say to him that I never really did that because that wasn't where I was coming from. As much as I like you, Nick, your ways and my ways we're on the opposite side of the fence. I don't believe in enslaving people, and
And he would come back with, "Oh, I do." Or,
Well, it would be more like,
it's better for them.
Well, it's more like, how do I put it? It was like, what do you care about them? What do you care about those people? What difference does it make to you? Take care of your own life. Do the best you can for you and your family. What do the rest of the people mean to you? They don't mean anything to you. They're just serfs. They're just people. It was just a lack of caring, and that's just not who I was. It was just sort of like cold, it was just like cold, and I used to say to him, what's the point of all this? You have all the money in the world you need. You have all the power you need. What's the point? What's the end goal? And he said the end goal is to get everybody chipped, to control the whole society, to have the bankers, the elite people, the bankers and some governor controlling the world. And I said, do all the people in the Council on Foreign Relations believe this way you do? He said, no. Most of them believe they're doing the right thing. A lot of them believe it's better off being socialistic. We have to convince people that socialism is really capitalism. Because America is becoming a socialist country. It's a communist country today. Well, one of the things they told me was that he was at the house one night, and we were talking, and he started laughing. He said, "Aaron, what do you think women's liberation was about?" And I said, I had pretty conventional thinking about it at that point. I said, I think it's about women having the right to work, getting equal pay with men, just like they won the right to vote, And he started to laugh. He said, "You're an idiot." And I said, "Why am I an idiot?" He said, let me tell you what that was about. We, the Rockefellers, funded that. We funded Women's Lib, And we're the ones who got all over the newspapers and television, the Rockefeller Foundation. He says, and you want to know why? He said, there were two primary reasons. And one reason was we couldn't tax half the population before Women's Lib. And the second reason was, now we get the kids in school at an early age. We can indoctrinate the kids how to think. It breaks up their family. The kids start looking at the state as the family, as the school, as the officials, as their family, not as the parents teaching them. And so those are the two primary reasons for Women's Lib, which I thought up to that point was a noble thing. When I saw their intentions behind it, where they were coming from when they created it, the thought of it, I saw the evil behind what I thought was a noble adventure.